This is just gonna have to work. It's not, I didn't think this through. But I need to record my book video, so we're just gonna make it work. Is this doing anything? No, nothing. Okay. Okay, so let's just record a book video. You may not be able to tell, but that's a Barnes & Noble back there. So I'm trying to stay on the theme here. But hi, Angela here. Welcome back to my channel. And today I'm going to give you my April reading wrap up. Okay. So my life was not very exciting, except that I did read books in April and I wanted to go ahead and get that up. Yes, I have my notes right here. I'm a Kindle reader, I'm a digital reader, so I don't have like any cute little books to put up here for you to read. Maybe it's just dark because I have my glasses, transition glasses, that's what it is. So I just wanted to go ahead and give you my reading wrap up. So in April, I read 8 books, which is pretty awesome for me. So in March, I read 8 books. In April, I read 8 books, and I did not have a horrible reading month. So I want to share with you the books that I read. In March, I had read the Six of Crows book, and then I finished that at the end of the month. So I picked up April with reading Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo, and I gave it 4.5 stars. So if Six of Crows was the heist, then Crooked Kingdom was like the con. And as a series, I'm going to give, well, as a series, as a duology, I'm going to give it like 4.75 stars because the books were really good. And this particular book, I'm going to give 4.5. So basically what's happening here, this is like the aftermath of the heist. They didn't get paid and they need to get their money. Their crew is like all over the place, and so they have to get everything back together to get their money, to get paid, to figure out how they're going to like save the friend group. And for me, this was a really great book. Yes, it's a YA fantasy book type thing, but I mean, it spoke to a lot of course, there's going to be a random person pulling up next to me. It spoke a lot to friendship, and because there's the whole friendship as the group, and then they have like their little friendships, relationships within the group. And that's the kind of thing that kept the story going. And it was just kind of very, very exciting to just find out how the rest of the story was going to go. Like I said, it was more about the con, how they were going to set it up, how things were going to keep on moving forward. I feel like we got a lot of like the backstory of all the characters, and that was really, really nice to I don't know, to see where they're coming from, to kind of see where they're going. And there was the little love aspect between Wylan and Jesper, which I feel like that's what people were living for. They had a little romance going on there. I don't know. It was one of the more interesting parts of the book. I'm not going to lie about that. Just because, I don't know, we've become so invested in these characters, and with Kaz and Inej, and then Nina and Matthias, you know, like there was something happened in the book that really just like kind of floored me, and it made me sad. And so like I had really, the way that we became invested in these characters in these 2 books, and how the story just felt very complete. And sometimes, you know, when books go on too long, then it kind of messes with the story, or like when the series goes on. So I kind of hope that that's where we leave it here, and it's not going to continue. All in all, I think that it was a really, really good book, and I enjoyed this book better than Six of Crows, and I really like Six of Crows. I just want to mention that I am sitting in a parking lot, like at the back of the parking lot, and there are plenty of other parking spaces, but there's one person that has just pulled up right next to me for no reason. Like there's a whole parking lot. Anyway, let's keep going. The second book I read this month was Pineapple Street by Jenny Jackson. Okay, so I feel like that this book was all over the place. This is a character driven story. It's not plot driven. It is just basically about this family, a rich family in Brooklyn Heights, and it follows like the different generations. I guess there's the mom. I'm sorry, I don't remember any characters' names. This is how the book really didn't stick with me. Let me read my notes. Okay, so there's Darlie, there's Georgiana, and then there's the married-in sister Sasha. So it kind of follows their story and how they navigate through like this waspy life, and it's in Brooklyn Heights, and so like they basically own all of Brooklyn Heights, and it's just like upper crust society type thing. And I gave this book a 3 before I go too far into it. It just wasn't, it was a good book, but like how it's been floating around on the booktube, and I hadn't really seen it on booktube, I'm not gonna lie, but on Bookstagram and even on Book Talk, I thought that it was going to be like a better book than what it was, and it wasn't. I actually read it because my husband had got it, and then I was like, that's not really a book that he would read, but he read it, and then I read it for that reason because he purchased it. And I mean, it was an okay book. I liked seeing like the different perspectives of the sisters. Like Georgiana has the wealth, but like she really doesn't want the wealth, and so she's trying to do better. And then Darlie is trying to live like the best life that she can. You know, she quit her job to be a mom, and her husband like suddenly loses his job, so like she signed over all of her inheritance when she got married, but to her kids, you know, because she married for love and all that. But then it comes down to it, like he was making all the money, but then he got fired, and so like she got kind of stressed because she had quit her job and blah blah blah. And then there's Sasha, who married into the family, and the other two basically think that she's like a gold digger or whatever, but she's really not. You know, she was middle class, and she just kind of just got thrown into this life, and then she's trying to like live by all these crazy rules that they kind of have. And then her husband is like mildly obsessed with his mom. He's definitely got mommy issues and all that. I mean, it's just a character study basically. And I mean, it was good. It wasn't great. I mean, if you're interested in, I don't know, kind of had like a Gossip Girl expose kind of feel to it, but like without all the pomp and circumstance of it, I guess. I mean, it was a good book. So if that kind of thing interests you, then go ahead. The third book I read this month was The Last Party by Clare Mackintosh. I think that this was actually a book of the month. I think I ended up getting this for free somehow. Maybe it was like a Amazon first read or something. After reading the fantasy book and then the regular book, I was really looking for like a thriller, and that's really what I was going for this month. I wanted to read just like a gut-wrenching just thriller book that had me on the edge. Okay, so that's what I was looking for in this book. The Last Party is about, once again, this book didn't stay with me. Before we get too far into it, I gave it 2 stars. Okay, the book just really didn't move me. It's about, first off, I'm jumping all over the place. British procedurals don't really hit with me. I guess because it's just the lingo and all that is just a little bit different. It's hard for me to really get into it, and so they're not always my favorite books, but I do try to stick with them because, you know, sometimes they do actually hit, but like if I see one on the shelf, it's not going to be the first thing that I go for. Okay, so basically there's this man, his name is Reese, and I don't think it's spoiling by saying that he got killed. I think that's on the back cover. Okay, so basically it's like a whodunit story. He has bought up he's like a singer or something, or like a Broadway actor type guy, and he goes back to his hometown, and he has like redeveloped all of this land, and he's basically selling it to like rich people, like to have like weekend homes or summer homes or whatever. So he has a party to invite all of the locals, or some locals, selected locals, and they have a party, but by the end of the party he is dead. So that was like the first chapter. And then So it's basically like a whodunit, who did it, why they did it type story. And I mean, the bones of the book were good. What bothered me a little bit is that it was a constant retelling of the book from and not at the same time, because the stories are being told from different points of view. So you'll go through and you'll read something, and then you'll start getting other people's POVs from the same incident or whatever, and then it's just you're replaying the book, and the book wasn't that good to be retold over and over again. So that kind of bugged me a little bit. And there's lots of misdirection to kind of throw you off of what's going on, but some of it seemed a little bit obvious to me, so therefore it wasn't really that exciting. And the more and more we found out about this dude, the less I started to care. And so by the time that we figured out who had actually killed him, I was like, whatever. It was just one of those type of books for me. On the web. So by the time that we got to that point, I really didn't care. He was a non-redeeming character in my eyes. You can give it a try. I gave it 2 stars. It just wasn't for me. So once again, because I was failed by that thriller, I moved on to The Housemaid by Freida McFadden. And as you know, this is in every bookstore. Everybody's trying to read this book, or everybody has read this book. It's on Kindle Unlimited. So it's a very popular book. I made no notes on this book, to be honest, and I write notes on pretty much every book that I read. My thing about this book was, basically it's about Millie, who has a bad past. She was in prison, she's getting out, she's trying to find a new job, and she had got fired from her other job, but to meet her parole thing, she has to keep a job. So she's trying to find a job. She's been living in her car, and she gets this great opportunity to be a housemaid for this very wealthy family. And she's like, that kills 2 birds with 1 stone. I get a job, and then I get a place to live. She moves into the house, and then she thinks that things are a little bit odd and blah, blah, blah. Thriller-ish, because she's trying to figure out why things are so odd and what's going on. And I don't really want to spoil it if you haven't read it. It had very similar vibes to The Last Mrs. Parrish, and The Last Mrs. Parrish was one of the first books that I started reading. I know it was the first book that I read when I started on my reading journey 2 years ago, and I absolutely, when I finished that book, I wish that I would have gotten that time back. So I like this book better than The Last Mrs. Parrish, but it was very, very similar in that aspect of it. And so the first half of the book is told from Millie's point of view, and then the second half of the book gets changed. After we've gotten the background, then we get the real deets of what happens. And I mean, to me, this was just a crazy ass story. Can I say that on the internet? I don't know. Okay, so yeah, it was just a crazy story, and then just when you think that it couldn't get any crazier, it gets crazier. So it definitely has that shock value to it, and I mean, it was enjoyable. The thing that kind of ruined it for me when I got to the end was knowing that there was a sequel to the book, because if that would have been the end of the book, that would have been great. But then I don't know, I read books to escape and to go into this whole other world, but to see that it was just going to keep going, that kind of ruined it for me. I mean, it was an actually good thrilling book. I gave it 3 stars. Okay, so I'm still going on my thriller kick, because I was still reaching for it and I couldn't find it. So the next book I read was Daisy Darker by Alice Feeney. If you know, a couple of months ago, I read an Alice Feeney book, Rock, Paper, Scissors, that everyone loved, and I just didn't like it. I hated it. And so I didn't know if I should try and read this book, but it was available at the library. So I was like, hey, why don't we go for it? And I'm so glad that I did, because I gave this book 5 stars. Daisy Darker. This is the thriller that I needed, that I wanted, and yes, it was even a British type book, and I loved it. So basically, the Darker family their Nana is turning 81 or 80 or something, and her birthday is on Halloween, and so she invites everyone to Sea Glass Island to come celebrate her birthday. This is not unusual, and so they all go. But the thing is that once you get on the island, you can't leave until low tide in the morning. So everybody's there. The story is told through Daisy Darker's perspective. which is Nana is a writer and Daisy Darker is part of her persona. It's now that I'm thinking about it, is their last name Darker, or is that just the story? Okay, well, whatever. Daisy, I don't know if it's the Darker family, whatever their name is, they all go to the island. So this is basically a take on Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None type thing, and I just thought it was very, very exciting. Who's going to survive the night? And then it becomes like a whodunit. Like when the first person dies, you're like, oh, who did it, because we're all sitting in here type thing. And then then the story starts to unravel a little bit. It's like a now and then type thing. So we're talking about what's happening now, but then we flash back to like the old days and try, and just like tell a story so every hour someone else dies, and it's just like, why did they die? Who did it? Blah, blah. And then like every chapter ended on some type of cliffhanger, and it was just really, really exciting. And I really, really enjoyed this book. And then when we got to the end of finding out why they did it and who it was and everything, I don't know. Like there were just so many like plot twists here that just had me going. And usually like I can figure things out. That's kind of what messes up thrillers for me, because I do kind of spot what is happening. And a couple of things I did think, but then it had me questioning. I was like, what's going on? And so like the fact that it had me questioning, it had me wanting to know more, was really a big deal. So 5 stars for Daisy Darker. And continuing on with the Daisy name here, the next book I read after that was Daisy Haites by, I keep wanting to say Tessa Bailey. It is not Tessa Bailey, it is Jessa Hastings. So this is the second book in the Magnolia Parks universe. And if you know, was that last month that I read Magnolia Parks? Yes, it was. Last month when I read it, I told you that the book like shook me. And once again, this book shook me. Now, I cannot rate these books 5 stars because of the content of the book. Like, it doesn't make you feel good. It doesn't make you... That kind of negates, like, because I just gave a thriller a 5 star. So, I mean, I guess I could. And, I mean, in actuality, like, if a 5-star book means that I think about it all the time and that I want to go back to it and the characters really resonate with me, then yes. Here we are. But okay, so the second book in the Magnolia Park series follows Daisy Haites, and she is on the fringe of the Magnolia Parks friend group because she is dating Christian. Well, she's casually dating Christian. So this book is told from Daisy, Christian, and Julian, who is Daisy's brother. They're like the crime families, kind of. Christian's family is a crime family, and then Daisy's family is a crime family also. They deal in arms and art, so they're not like shoot 'em up drugs type, but stuff happens. But I just liked the edge of this book. It was like a little bit grittier. It was a little bit more gangster, and I don't know, like I just liked that like raw edge of it. What I didn't like was Magnolia Parks did a constant like name dropping, label dropping type thing, and that was annoying. But because Daisy is supposed to be like smarter, I'm sorry, there's like a school bus going by and it has like mannequins in it. Okay, anyway, but Daisy is like smart and she's scholarly and she goes to school and everything, so everything that Daisy says is annotated, and some of the annotations have no meaning behind it. Like she'll say something and then the annotation will be like yep, and then but that takes away from it because then you have to go like look down at the page to see what the annotation is, and sometimes they just don't need to be there. So it is kind of annoying in that aspect. People said that her relationship is toxic. I don't really think that it's a toxic relationship here. I just don't think that she knows what she wants. And everyone is like, oh yes, this book is so great because of Julian. Yes, Julian is a very interesting character, but this book made me fall in love with Christian Hems. Like everybody else is like, he's so boring, but like he is the reason why I was flipping through these pages. Like Daisy is not like as likable as a character as Magnolia Parks, but her story is still good. But maybe her story is good because her brother is awesome and so is Christian Hems. I don't know. But like, I have so many notes on this book, and I think once you enter the Magnolia Parks universe, then you kind of just stay in it. So like, There are 4 books out right now, I think. Yeah, and I don't want to like speed through these books. These books are thick though. So, I mean, they're like 500 plus pages, but it's a total character driven story. The book is just really, really good. It's just how the story twists and everything. I know that I'm not really telling you anything about the book. It's just about Daisy and how she deals with the crime life, how that kind of like affects her personality and the people that she dates, and then just kind of like her actions. Daisy has a lot of problems. I'm not going to lie about that. She needs to get that fixed. And miscommunication is something that is all throughout these books. And that's probably the biggest reason why I cannot give it a 5, because I just don't like the miscommunication thing. If you are in a relationship or you're dating someone that you cannot communicate with, then that's like weird to me. I don't know. Okay, now I'm starting to get hot. I'm going to have to cut the car on. Give me a second. Okay, so the last 2 books that I read this month are both by Abby Jimenez, and she's one of my favorite authors. Like, she writes romance books, but they have like a little bit more depth to them. So like, that's why I like her stuff. Now, I've read the Friend Zone series because I heard really great things about the second book, but you know, to read the second book, you really need to read the first book. Well, that's my logic behind it. So the first book that I read was The Friend Zone. I gave it 3.5 stars. So this is about Kristen and Josh. Josh has just gotten out of a relationship because I guess the girl he was saying he couldn't see himself like having a life with her, and she didn't want kids, and all of those things were like very, very important to him. And then Kristen is in a long-term long-distance relationship with Tyler. He's deployed, and he's supposed to give that up so that he can come home and be with her. He's very wealthy, like he's good on paper, and he doesn't want kids, and you know, like wants to live like this free-flowing life, which is appealing to Kristen because Kristen has some infertility issues, and she doesn't she doesn't want to be with someone that wants kids. So you can already kind of see where this is going. There was a meet cute that happened, and Kristen's best friend is marrying Josh's best friend. So they're like already connected after having the meet cute and all of that. So anyway, Josh kind of immediately starts taking a liking to Kristen, but you know, she's already in this relationship, so he decides to like friend zone himself, you know, just in case things don't work out, which really isn't putting yourself in friend zone, right? That means that you're just keeping yourself available, right? But anyway, it ends up working. They get into this relationship, and as you can tell, you know, they're obviously gonna have issues because she can't have kids, and he makes like all of these like kind of weird comments about wanting kids. So it's basically just like their story about everything that happens in that. There's a lot of miscommunication here, which drives me absolutely nuts. That's what kind of rated the book really low for me. And you know, there's a third act conflict that is like a for real third act conflict. It's really heart-wrenching. I'm not gonna, you know, these books are kind of heavy. Like I said, Abby Jimenez does like real depth in her romance books. There's a lot of heavy things going on here, and it does make it feel more like of a realistic relationship and that way, because usually when you read romance books, they're not like, you know, we've known each other for 5 days and we're soulmates type thing. But this, I felt like, had a little bit more depth behind it. And I don't want to tell you what happens in the book, but then I'm going to end up telling you the next book for the next book. But anyway, it's just a really, really good series. The stuntman Mike is her dog, and you know, like it's like how the dog can tell, you know, what's really going on type thing. So they're just like little nuggets along the way. So it was one of those type of books, and I do actually recommend it. 3.75 stars. And then the last book that I read this month, again by Abby Jimenez, The Happy Ever After Playlist. Okay, so this follows Kristen's best friend from the first book, Sloane. Something happens in her life. She is forced to move on, okay? She ends up meeting this other guy who is like this Grammy Award winning like singer. She doesn't recognize it. She finds his dog while he's out on tour or whatever, so they kind of like have this love is blind type of relationship going on. They're talking and then they kind of start liking each other before they actually meet and all this. So like things move really, really quick in this book because he has to go on tour, they meet, and then like it just starts bulldozing its way through this relationship. The exact opposite of Kristen and Josh. It kind of works out in their favor in that aspect. This story is more like not just a relationship between two other people, but like the relationship with yourself and how you heal and how you move forward. Kind of about like what sacrifices are important to make relationships work, the compromises and all that. Like the story was so much deeper. It did carry like a lot of heavy issues and stuff about dealing with grief and moving on and doing all those type of things. And I don't know, like it just had a little bit more depth. I really, really enjoyed the characters in this book, and I loved the connection that they had with each other. And I don't know, like I really love this book. I give this book 4.25 stars, and I highly recommend this. There are 3 books in the series. I'm gonna read the next book very soon. I think that's all the books. I hope that's all the books that I read, because it's getting hot in the car and I need to go home and watch F1. So those are all the books that I read in April. And I'm super excited that I had a super strong reading month. There, you know, I only had like a couple of books in there that I just would not recommend to people. Or I'm starting to build my summer TBR, because in the summer I just want to read like light and fun books. So that's why I'm going to read the deep, the dark, the ugly books right now, because when June hits, I want to be reading something different. Yeah, but that is all. Thank you so much for watching this video. Comment down below, what did you read? And yeah, because the TBR is always open. Always open. Just let me know what you're reading, and I will see you in the next video. Bye. I'll be your light.